Not one, not two, not three, not four, but five police officers showed up to my showing. What? All right, so let's back up a little bit. How did I find myself in a situation where there are five police officers showing up at a showing that was approved? So a client of mine reaches out. He says, "Hey, I want to tour this home." It's under his pre-approval. I thought, okay, no problem. So I set up a tour. I use our Showing Time app. So I don't know about the rest of the country, but here in New Jersey, at least in South Jersey, we use an app called Showing Time to schedule tours. Totally industry standard. So I basically go in, I say, I want to tour the home at this time. Is that acceptable by the seller? And I got approved. Didn't think anything of it. Works smoothly 100% of the time. Well, now 99%. So get to the house, just in a normal neighborhood, and it's actually the nicest house, or let me rephrase, it's the most expensive house for sale in the town. It's $670,000. So I pull up to the house, I park on the curb. I don't like parking on the driveway. You never know if an owner gets upset about it. My client's parked on the driveway. He's already there. I didn't make a big deal about it. So we walk up to the house and I open up my app. I see what the code is and I'm like, okay, let me open up the lockbox and take the key, open it up. The home is a bi-level. So when you walk in, you're basically on a landing and you can either go up or go down. We go up first because that's where the kitchen, living room, dining room, and the bedrooms are. It's a better place to start. So we're looking through, and the home is 4,000 square feet. It's a big one. It just doesn't feel big though. It's very dated, a lot of large, bulky furniture, not a lot of windows, not a lot of lighting. But we're going through, he's like, I just don't really like this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. While we're here, we might as well check out the downstairs though. Just makes sense. So we go downstairs and it's set up as an in-law suite, which is a pretty cool setup. And there's some big windows down there. They're probably 3.5, 4 feet tall. And I look through one of the windows and I see a police officer. I'm like, huh, that's weird. And then I say to my client, hey, Mark, there's a police officer outside. I'm going to go see what's going on. He says, okay. So I go upstairs because I was now downstairs and I'm now on the landing. And I open the door and I say, nothing. And I just look at the police officers and they look at me. And then I say, hello. And they say, hi, no one's supposed to be here right now. So I say, oh, that's weird. I'm a realtor. I have a showing scheduled for this time. And I take my hands out of my pockets to show that I'm not threatening whatsoever because I probably caught them off guard just as much as they caught me off guard. So I put the key on the ground. I put all my stuff out. They ask me for identification. I say, okay, I'm going to reach into my wallet, into my pocket, grab it. Yep, no problem. And then they say, is anyone else inside? I say, yes, my client's still inside. They say, well, go get him. So I go inside and I can't find him. And I'm like, whoopsies. Fortunately, he was just in the garage, but it's a big house. So I lost him for a second. So I say, hey, Mark, police officers just want us outside. There's 2 of them out there. By the time we get back outside, there's now 5. So 4 more cruisers had pulled up and they're all over the driveway. It's a big U-shaped driveway. So now they're everywhere. I'm like, okay. So they start questioning me. They say, well, what's going on here? And I said, oh, I'm just a realtor showing the home. And they said, well, who approved you to be here at this time? And I said, well, either the listing agent or the seller. And they're like, well, how do you not know? And I said, well, I explained what our Showing Time app is. And I showed them, I said, I'm going to pull out my phone, show them. It said from 2 to 2:30, the property's address, that I was approved, and then the lockbox information. And they say, well, who approved you? And I said, well, oftentimes it's the owner, but if no one's living here, probably just the listing agent. And they weren't really getting it. And then they just keep asking me. They say, so they asked me, so the seller hired you to sell the house? And I said, no, they hired the listing agent, and I had an MLS sheet with me. Kind of looks like one of these. And the listing agent's info's on the back of it. So I say, no, it's this person right here. And they said, well, what's her last name? And I said, I don't know. It's on the sheet though. And I say, and so's her contact info if you want to call her. So they try calling her. Of course, she doesn't answer. Typical real estate agent. And they just keep questioning me. And now every neighbor's come outside too. And thank God my client, cool as a cucumber. And also, the police were trying to get us to admit that we were robbing the house. But I'm 5'7". I was wearing a North Face jacket. My client's a 70-year-old man, Army veteran, trying to help his blind sister find a house. So nothing about us was threatening at all. But he's cool as a cucumber, so I'm very thankful for that. And all the neighbors have come outside, and then a neighbor says, "Hey, whose blue pickup truck is this?" And I said, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am, that's mine." And I'm shouting. I'm all the way on the other end of the driveway. And she says, "You're blocking my driveway." And I said, "Oh, no, ma'am, I don't believe I am." And she said, "Well, you're making it difficult for me to get out." And just so you know, I was parked on the other side of the road, behind her driveway, yes, not blocking it at all, just on the other side of the road. The homes are all staggered, so no matter what, I'm going to be blocking someone else in. So I look at the officer, I say, "Officer, can I please move my car? You have my license, I'm not going to go anywhere." And he says, "Yes, please move your car, like just get it away from her." And then this neighbor also actually made another officer move his car, who just wasn't blocking anything at all. And then she proceeded to go back inside. So if you're one of those neighbors, stop. No one likes you. Just being honest. So I go back, standing next to the officer I was told to stand next to, and he keeps asking me questions. He says, "Well, did the seller hire you to sell the house?" I said, "No, they hired their realtor." And they said, "Well, then why are you here?" And I said, "Well, the realtor approved me to be here because I have a buyer, Mark, who's interested in touring this house, and he's been pre-approved, so we know that he can afford this house on paper." And they say, "Well, then who do you work for?" And I said, "Oh, I work for White Girt Realtors in Morristown." If my broker is watching this, I know we're technically White Girt Premier, but Premier doesn't sound like real estate, and in the moment, Realtors sounded a lot better. So we work for White Girt Premier. And they say, and the cop said, "So the seller hired White Girt Realtors to sell the house?" And I said, "No." And I explained how it worked again. Then he had me take out my showing time app. He was like, "Well, this app could be fake. How do I know it's not fake?" So fortunately, I had other showings scheduled. I scroll through and I show this is how it works. I had 4 or 5 other showings scheduled over the next few days. So to try to give some legitimacy to it. And then we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then they say, "Well, whose gray car is this?" And I said, "I have no clue. That car is on this property. I obviously drive the blue pickup truck." And Mark said, "I drive the black Nissan." Well, they said, "This car is coming back as an unregistered stolen vehicle." Of course it is. It's a piece of junk, silver car. I don't even know what brand it was. Fully blacked out tinted windows. Just a beater. And I said, "Officer, it has Maryland tags. I assure you it's not me." And he said, "Well, it's a little suspicious. You can see that, right?" And I was like, "I can see that." And then he said to me, "And another thing that was suspicious is you immediately walked out of the house when we got here, kind of like you were on the lookout for us." And I explained, "Well, officer, part of my job is to be alert to situations. I'm in someone's house. I need to make sure everything goes smoothly. And if I see a police officer outside, gonna take a look, see what's going on." So we were just waiting and waiting, more neighbors coming, more neighbors going. And then finally, police officer, the first one, comes up to me and he says, "We're not going to make a big deal about this. You're good to go." And I say, "Okay, well, the key's still on the ground where I put it. Do you want me to lock up the house and turn the lights off?" And he says, "Yes, I'll walk back through with you." So we go through, bang, 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 turn off all the lights. And then I go to lock the door and my hand is shaking because I'm still so scared. Because I did nothing wrong, but I was still scared. And then he helps me lock the door. And then I put it back in the lockbox using the code I got from the app. And I say, "Well, I appreciate you guys coming. I'm sorry that all of this got confused." They said, "Yeah, the owner called because she saw you on the ring." And I was like, "Oh, I wish she would have known that it was a scheduled tour at this time." And they said, "Yeah." And then I go walk back towards my car, and then a cruiser, the last one, is leaving. I think it's the chief. And he says, "We just got a hold of the listing agent. She said you were allowed to be here. I'm sorry for the inconvenience." And I say, "It's all good. Thank you for your time." And then I leave. I'm driving, and I get a call from an unknown number, and it's the listing agent. Doesn't apologize, just says, "Yeah, feel free to reschedule the tour, and I'll double confirm this time." And I said, "Oh, my client's definitely not interested in the house anymore," and he told me that. And she was like, "Oh man, it's really a great house. You should reconsider." And I said, "I think getting the police called on you puts a bad taste in your mouth." And I said, "Thank you though." And then she hung up on me, and I was like, okay. And the police officer also, before I left, told me that I should probably reach out to the listing agent, call them, and call the owner anytime I want to show a home. And I said, okay. Between me and you, it's not going to happen because I don't have a way to get in touch with the owner. But in a perfect world, I would. And I told him in a perfect world that I would. But anyway, crazy story. Hopefully this never happens again. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and please leave a comment below. And if you like this video, you might like this one right up here. Don't forget to subscribe.